Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much. Again, Balam, 1 minute. Let me share this video and appeal for people to share this video. I don't normally do that, but it's quite important to share this video because of what we're going to discuss today. We are seeing the evidence of things that we've been raising the alarm, and we will deconstruct it a little bit more for people to understand more and to be vigilant and prepare for what is coming onto us unless we do something to stop it. And we are going into troubled waters. We are already in troubled waters, and we need to get out of these waters as soon as possible. And if you just bear me a minute, let me share this one more share here. Okay, guys, first of all, I have to I mean, just bear me if you can see me properly. There's the sun coming out on the other side, and I'll first talk about the music I've just played. And I had this music this morning. Someone sent it to me from Oh Boy Ajindi, and I can say it's one of the most conscious music being released in a generation. And I know people would address this music to Barrow alone. No. Yes, I know why Barrow will have a problem with it, and I know it's quite relevant on Barrow, But this music transcends gender. Generations. This music transcends boundaries. And what the young man is saying there, for some of us that can understand Mandinka properly or did not get the music itself, the lyrics itself, is calling for accountability. That if your president or your elected leaders fail to deliver, you get them down. Be that MP, be a governor, be anybody you nominate or elect, you have to get them down. And another point he raised when he talked about people who are Western educated, actually that would reference to elites, because in our community, the elites are termed people who are Western educated, and rightly so, who are more responsible for the corruption, the mismanagement, and every other thing that enable a bad governance. And that is addressing to the elites as well, that these elites have to be addressed. And the other points he raised, on my understanding of my Mandinka, is about the accountability, that if you don't raise defenses, these thieves would easily escape. And that's what it means for politicians. Gambia, we've been at a crossroad. We've been at a crossroad for a long time. And we've been talking about this crossroad in the sense of national security. And all is due to failed leadership, bad governance. This is what you get in this case. And evidence are coming every day. And I'm not even feeling well, but the minute I've got the pictures, the audios of the attack that happened last night, about 2 to 3 a.m., and where our officers, immigration officers, been attacked, and where we have the military stone throw away guarding a Chinese factory and refuses to intervene to protect their own brothers. And the failure of the media to cover this. This did not happen in an isolated environment. It happened in Gunjur, but we still didn't hear the press for the media. Getting in on ground and ask the question that I meant to be asked. But as I said, what happened last night and what been happening is a sign of what is coming to us. And I would deconstruct that in a minute. I received an audio from Ahmed Manjang that he shared. He didn't send it to me, he shared to a group, and someone took it out of the group and shared it. And according to what Ahmed Manjang said, I want to play it for people to hear. According to what Ahmad Manjang said, who have witnessed, who have been on this at the scene of crime, and must have heard from the officers what have transpired, and from the other person who is in contact with one of the victims, what they have said. And if you give me a minute, it's a short audio, and I'll play the audio for us to hear what have been said by Ahmad Manyan. If you just bear me a minute, thank you, brother Wahab, for you shared that message. I will play the audio. I hope you guys will hear it loud and clear, and I will interpret it for people that might not understand Mandinka. Okay, unfortunate. People are saying that it's not clear. That's much I can do, but I will explain. The volume is on full. I think it's the way it's been recorded, and this wind wave and pollution in the video in the audio. What Brother Ahmad Manjang was saying that he sent this to a group, and I think it's to do with people from Gunjur. And Brother Ahmad Manjang said that information he have received from the police on this at the scene of crime, that the attack that happened, it happened at the on immigration officers based at the beach, Gunjur Beach area, and 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 the people suspected of attacking the immigration officers are people of Susu origin. Susu origin, people who come from the area of Guinea, Guinea-Conakry and Sierra Leone area, people that speak Susu. I'll get to this very clearly. These are the people suspected of attacking the immigration post. And they attacked this immigration post very close to Golden Leaf, and where we have army guarding the Golden Leaf factory. But they fail to have support from the army. But they have support from the fire service that went to their aid and to repel the attack. But I cannot share the pictures. They are very gruesome, and a number of officers have been injured and very seriously on the head and other part of the body. And we have reports that probably one or two are in on a critical condition. One of two officers, immigration officers, are on a critical condition. This is what Ahmad Manjang posted. And what Ahmad Manjang said again, he said in the same group that he shared this audio, whenever he shared audio to deal with the fish meal factory, people will come and debunk him or debunk them, to ridicule them for posting things are of concern. And what Ahmad Manjang is saying there is the implications that they warn that the presence of this fish meal factory, what is going to cause to the society, is actually happening there. And he said if these criminals can go and attack immigration point, a government installation, what is stopping them from attacking the locals? This is what is in that audio. And according to my source who reported, he said the immigration post was established 3 days ago without vehicles been issued to the immigration officers, without any form of source of defending themselves. And we have to realize that Gunjur is not very far from the border of the Gambia, which is Khartoum. And if you have an outpost, one thing that should be a risk assessment should ensure before you open an outpost to inform you of what is needed for the post to function. And first and foremost, the welfare of the officers, their security of the officers, and then how they can effectively, um, I mean, I mean, discharge their duties to the community. This is a failure to say that the the immigration post was not, assessed right, and to make sure before it opens, it was equipped with a vehicle. To be mobile, but not only that, to assess, to know the risk factors, and in case of emergency, how they can defend themselves, and what, like, scenarios that can happen, what sort of emergency might happen that they will need to support themselves. But again, another failure of security here is you cannot have, sister forces operating within the same jurisdiction without any means of communication and without a protocols. For in case of emergency, there should always be contingency plan, and there should be always a effective communication strategy developed between sister forces. From the top, right to the jurisdiction that they operate, so that they can support each other. There should be, there should have been a way to, raise the alarm, so that the local forces or local system, these things could have responded quicker than the than we as we expected. But in this case, it is fire service who are not armed, and had to go in there to give their support. And it's disappointing that we have armed soldiers being used. I don't have not seen that in any country, unless we are in war, unless there's a national emergency where armed soldiers will go and guard private installations. And the private installations armed soldiers will ever guard will be installations that are critical to the existence of that community, or that nation. For instance, today, if a water plant, generation plant, and other plants that are serving the community or the country, that you can justify when there's when the situation emergency level have been raised. To have armed soldiers to guard that. This is completely abuse of the armed forces. And again, this is bringing the armed forces into conflict with with civilians, because what is happening here, the armed forces is guarding an installation which is illegally installed. The fiscal factory is illegal, but by law it's illegally operated. It have not observed the environmental I mean regulations, and it's violated its relationship with the public, and thirdly, it's exploited and destroying the resources of that nation. Then this institution, this private entity, is in conflict with the will of the people. Now, instead of, we have the government on our side, now the government is supplying armed guards, to secure that location, which is of no good to our economy, no good to our country or anything else, but for the people that deserve Barrow, vice president, and the people that benefit from the proceeds. This is where we are today, and the issue with the fish meal factory again is coming out here. According to what I understand, let me caveat that, what I understand from the audio that Ahmad Manjang have shared, these people, these people, they allege, they suspected, they accuse to be the people that attacked our immigration officers are people within the establishment or part or work with the fish meal factory. And these people, again, as we have seen, and we should be very careful, this is what raises xenophobia, because of people call it xenophobia, other people call it nationalistic feelings. This is what causes it, and we should be very careful. Again, this, and present enterprise, the factory is actually again a risk to our coexistence between West Africans, because there are important West Africans. They are not vetted. People don't know their backgrounds. People don't know what they are, and now they are housed within a complex and protected within a complex, and they can operate and do whatever they want, according to the allegations. If these people have the audacity to attack an installation which is of government owned, a service operation, center, that is cause for concern. Before I've got the information, the detail of the, before I got the audio from Ahmad Manjang, when I heard about the attack of an installation, my mind set up to an insurgency. This is a start to an insurgency. I cannot go deep in that because of now we are ruling out an insurgency, but just to show you the magnitude of the danger we facing. But if what allege that foreign citizens can be in our country and have the audacity to go and attack our men and women in uniform in the dead of night, this is important to point and to emphasize on the dead of night. Only if you want to inflict maximum damage on your opponent, that you attack at dead of night. Even soldiers, they have preference. If you want to capture an installation, if you want to um, capture an installation, attack an installation, and to make so the damage cost is limited, you do it during daybreak when you can see, you can identify. Why would you avoid to damage an installation? Because that installation is critical to be captured or recaptured in order to continue to serve the benefit of that nation. Then you don't want to attack that in the dead of night, because of you will not see properly and you might inflict this thing. But again, if the forces involved are forces that you just want to neutralize, because in some circumstances you want to overcome, but you don't want to conquer. Because when citizens would get to a point that citizens are dealt with, we are not dealing with them as a foreign enemy, but we are dealing with them with that as an insurgent. We need to preserve as much as possible and show humanity as much as possible, because of these people are to be integrated again into society. Then you are not out there to destroy them completely, but you are there to subdue them. You are there to use maximum force necessary in order to apprehend them if possible. Where your life is at risk, then that's where you kill them, or where the only means of subduing them would be to inflict that pain, then you would. Then if a foreign nationals would plan, because why would they do it dead of night? They plan it. Allegedly, if foreign nationals are involved, they have planned it. They thought about it, they have planned it. What grievances do they have to our immigration officers? They are discharging their duty for the interest of the sovereign nation. They are discharging their duties for the sovereignty of nation. Why didn't they attack an army barracks? Why didn't they attack a police post? No, because they have a problem with the immigration officers for doing their job. But why? What sort of frustration? What audacity would they have? Why do they have that audacity to plan to inflict this pain to kill them? This is attempted murder to the extent of arming themselves with all any weapons they have. Whatever weapon they have, these weapons are capable of killing, because of the bleeding we saw, the open wounds we saw, and the areas inflicted on the body are all critical areas that one can lose their life. They did that to our men and women in uniform at the dead of night, surprise them and attack them. These people would never thought of having an attack on them, and this is what is happening now. Gambians should think about this, and think of election violence. Election violence. Think of this, and don't say that Ben Suwareh is talking about election violence not happening. My role is to think ahead. Think of the unthinkable, but think of something rational. And things that we've been warning of are being seen every other day. It's getting there every other day. Are we still to be lazy, or being scared to be ridiculed or whatever, and keep quiet when our country is just going down the path? And we'll give you evidence on this. If these people can do this, what about if these people are enfranchised illegally? Can we ask ourselves this? I don't know their motive, but their motive is to do with their residency. It sounds, because they have a problem with immigration, not police. Now, if allegedly these people are involved and they attack the immigration because of their resident status, you think these people, if they're empowered illegally by giving voter cards to vote on our elections, what would these people end up doing to us? That's why when we talk about ensuring every Gambian should, regardless who you support, to make sure these elections are free and fair, to make sure that we don't have foreigners deciding who govern us. Whether we like it or not, let allow our democracy to work. Whoever Gambian decide to vote for, we will rally behind that government and hold that government accountable and support that government where they don't right. But we should be very careful because of positions we're given, jobs. This is going to my brothers and sisters in the services that are given responsibility to issue out documents, to scrutinize documents, to enforce the law, not to look the other way because you are given ranks or you have been bribed by a government. This goes to my brothers and sisters that support this government, knowing that the government is unpopular and impossible to win an election. The only way we will do it would be illegal voting. To support that government because of you support them because of what you gain from what you gain from these people right now. I am talking to you. This is a sign of what is likely to happen in the country. But again, we said that this fish meal factory was a cause of concern, was a security. I mean, it's a risk posing to our national security, and the evidences are here. We've seen what happened in Sanya. The xenophobic attack that ensued was due to the presence of the system factories. Evidence are there that over 6 or almost a century, we have lived coexistently with our Senegalese neighbors, our brothers and sisters who come in and integrate, married, intermarry and everything, and we benefit each other. We have never had an issue. Not a one flashpoint for a generation, for generations. Why the presence of the fish mill factory become a problem? And now we want to hear from politicians to tell us what do they intend with this fish mill factory. And the politicians should come out, not when they come into government. Let them commit themselves. But tell us, the politicians should come out today and tell Gambians what is their plan with this fish mill factory within our midst and this insecurity. To tell us what do they have plans for insecurity. Who are these political spokespersons for security, political spokesperson for finance, political spokesperson for agriculture, political spokesperson for whatever it is? A government would not be run by the party leader. The government would be run by a government constituted by citizens. Citizens, I mean, the bulk, yes, the bulk will come from a political party platform that have been the mandate to govern, but it's the citizens. Now we expect those citizens to be out there, to be vocal, to be seen, to prescribe the solution to our problems. We know the problem. We need the leadership that comes and and prescribe the solutions to this thing and to convince Gambians that they have what it takes to do that. And another indication here, Gambia, we all see the evidence. As I said, when sometimes we talk, people will have their doubts. I don't know for what reason, because our consistency should not be questioned. We've been in this for a while, and we have been consistent. But Silabas Samate himself produced the pictures, the evidence that he was detailed by the president to go and decorate our soldiers. And if someone has said this to me without the proof, I will not dispute it. But with all my skepticism of the situation, I will not I will not buy it easily. But Silaba himself came out and to show off this. And why is Silaba doing this? We all know there's a big infighting between Barosakos. He came out the other day to explain the ship in wolf clothing within the Sorani Barrow. Now he's coming to show how important he is to Barrow and what services or who I mean how Barrow I mean what the regards that Barrow have for him or whatever. This is something he's trying to prove. But for us, this is alarming. Gambia, this is alarming. When we come out here to blame the president, yes, the box stop with the president, for being part of a cartel. Because if you knowingly associate yourself, bring your office into disrepute, as a president, the president knows the history of syllabus and the history of other orders that he associates with. It's wrong. I still don't know anywhere in any armed forces act, code, or anything that that entitle the president to detail a civilian, a non-officer part of the Ministry of Defense, be in a ceremony where he would be decorating, an unelected officer or official who will be decorating our soldiers. But more so, someone with a questionable background, someone who came out on social media and confessed to be a drug trafficker, someone who came out on media in possession of fake gold and known to be involved in scamming people, someone that has served time and been charged for involved in drug trafficking. Someone who have actually who came in a we had the testimony and a controversy with a former head of state allegedly to deal with drug trafficking. This is the sort of person that president. And we wonder why the country as it is. We wonder why the country is insecure, because of the failure of the president and the relationship between the president, Barrow, and the cartel in the country, and undermining the confidence of the security sector. And this is why we hear of a failed security sector. And again, a testimony of that is the quality of person that been appointed as the Minister of Defense, and we heard from him. And not even we don't have to have, we know the person of his background and character. And we expect to build a country based on this kind of characters, this kind of people. This is a reason for this insecurity. But on more so, I am going to read a text being circulated. And this text, and before I read the text, I'll follow up this. And Gambians, you ask yourself what the Gambia press is doing in discharging their duties to the Gambian people. The drug case involving the 3 tons of cocaine. The only person being arrested was a gentleman called Sirif Njai, a Gambian. I got a message, still I've not seen it on the media. I've got a message from a friend who said that Sirif Njai have been discharged from the courts. What surrounds the judgment to be discharged or anything, I don't know, because I was expecting to see an official press release or something, official press release from the Ministry of Justice, Interior, or the watchdog, which is the press association. But I've not seen anything, not a drop. I welcome the release of Sirif because, as I assume, as I said, Sirif cannot be on top of the cabal even if he had knowledge of anything. Why victimize the Gambia, the single person? We still haven't had any development on the investigations or anything. And the president have said that he have constituted a panel to investigate this case of drugs. And we know the history of that. It always is calm to manage our expectation and Gambians to forget about it and think everything finished. The whereabouts of Banta and what involved Banta, we know that Banta have a lawyer in the Gambia, Sirif Tambedu, and Sirif Tambedu have actually once been mentioned in court, and we haven't had nothing again. Who are the people protecting this drug cartel in the country? We know of presence of very unsavory people, international drug lords in the Gambia right now, very residents, and they are using Gambians. We have evidence of this, of using Gambians to front their businesses in the Gambia in form of hotels and real estate businesses. No wonder we have this problem of money laundering. No problem we have the issue about the high level of counterfeiting in Dallas and in other this thing. And the financial sector have actually been alarmed to the extent of some banks are not accepting foreign currency from to their doors because of the high risk of taking up the dodgy foreign notes. We have seen evidence of a brother going to the Gambia from the diaspora here, Shorty, to go into a bank to receive something like 30,000, and almost 80% of that was fraudulent £200 dollars in notes from an institution, from a bank. How much? How much did our financial sector have been compromised? We had heard about so-called hacking of $15 million or more. Still now, it's not been reported. That's the level of criminality that's going on in this country. Apart from these 3 tons of drugs, we know about the 900 blocks of hashish recovered. The other time, and some arrests were made. We have not heard about that in the courts anymore. Who is protecting all these people? And we know that some of the things these people have in common are they are Gambian and of French background. And in that investigation, something that they never brought out to us is one of the vehicles impounded, because they impounded the hashish and they impounded high-powered vehicles. And one of those vehicles had a registration number for Mali. And now and from investigation, we have established that Gambia is serving as a hub and now, not only to take these drugs from the source of the Gambia to wealthy countries in the world, but it's a source of taking these drugs and going through the West Africa corridor, taking it to conflict zone to Mali and to Chad and Burkina Faso, and finding itself to Angola and other drug other conflict countries. And what is this doing? They are using these drugs as Charles Taylor did, as the RUF did in Sierra Leone, to drug youths and to get them to serve as mercenaries and inflict pain in our own people. Now Gambia have become a source of instability in Africa itself. This is, and Barrow doesn't care. All he's care about is how much of money coming to him, and this is where Barrow deprives his wealth, and he doesn't care about anything else. But these people don't only import the drugs and export. Now we have evidence of synthetic drugs that have never. All we know was rush. Now we have seen ecstasy and every other form of drugs in the country. And we wonder why the youths are so violent. We have seen the evidence. When Gambians were not known for any high stake robberies, but and especially violence. We could tell which, when a crime happens, which nationality would likely to commit that crime, but not Gambians. And now the low-level crime that Gambians were involved in and so on, we know of what they facilitate, we know. But in this case now, we have seen not sophisticated Gambians, but the youths. And whenever we see their picture, we can see the evidence of the substance abuse in them. And these people are very young people. Now, because of the availability of this source of drugs, it's not the marijuana grown in the Gambia. These are synthetic drugs. These are chemicals being used to put more potent into the marijuana we have, or whatever you have to develop it to be more likely to make someone more psychotic than anything else. That's why we see the level of crime, and we see the violence in the crime that's been committed, where Gambian youths now would break into a house knowing that you are an occupant of that house because of they are out of their senses. This is a country that we have where every system is corrupt because of the president, from the president downwards is corrupt. Now our security sector cannot be effective at all because of the security sector that needed to be reformed to be effective. Is completely polluted politically and economically into the problems that we face. The Gambia, we are getting deeper into problems, and we are not seeing the solution described, supposed to be described by our politicians. But our politicians are taking politics as usual. And to think that all they need to do is mobilize and wait for elections. And they are not even looking to this route of elections, the likeliness of elections or not. I tell you, any serious thinker in the Gambia that would have observed well, why even have doubts whether we will be holding elections in December. And are we, if we do, are we thinking of what happens? What if constituency plans to deal with this? No, we wait for things to drop and then we react. This is the reason why we keep on having these conversations for Gambian, conscious Gambians to take up this issue. Now, I will come to another point of the failure of the security sector reform here. And as I say, I'm just pointing to these things due to the evidence been coming out. And this issue have been shared with me. And yes, I assume it comes from a forum sympathetic to Yahya Jammeh. And I said this here. I said this here. Yahya Jammeh will not rest. Yes, he was not stupid to show his hands until the country is plunged, destabilized, so that we will not have time for him, and so that they can prove a point, because he's a psychopath, that without the Ajame, this country cannot move. I've received this viral message forwarded to me, and it's likely to come from sympathizers of the APRC. But what I agree with is the information contained is a fact. It's something I knew about, something I talked about before. The level of corruption in the armed forces of the Gambia, starting from when General Kinte was there, Masani Kinte, and I raised these things many times, fell on deaf ear. That level of corruption just have got to a stage, and the signs are just very dangerous. And if anyone want to go and find out and access, since this government come to power, how many soldiers have resigned in the Gambia armed forces? Resigned and left. Some people just decided they didn't even bother to resign. Some people didn't even wait for their time to finish. And most of them are in that country. And they are not in, percentage of them are not in gainful employment. Some of them are in gainful employment, but we all know what it means in the Gambia to be in gainful employment. And others might be into other things we don't know. I don't want to, accuse people for something else that they are not in charge for, but something out there. These people live in the army, they will constitute a risk in our national security. I am not saying they are bad people, but that's why the security sector reforms fail, because they have not addressed the issue of what happens to people when they leave the armed forces. It failed. Now these are risk factors. What should be done with them and so on. I mean, we have this problem in this. But not only that, the corruption in the armed forces. As I said before, you cannot inherit a system like that without um, without thinking of an innovative way of developing that institution. And how do you innovate? How do you innovate something? You have to have the mind to do that, the capacity. You have to have the mind to do that. You have to know what you want from them. You see, the security sector reforms should have been approached on what do we want from from what does the country need in terms of national security, in the terms of the physical security. Then national security is not about only physical security, but you come down to the level of national the physical security, and then you address whether we need an army or not, or what sort of army we need. But in doing those, that you have inherited an institution that is completely, we know it was into disrepute. What do you do to sanitize that armed forces? What do you do to make sure it's safe? Before you start to develop policy to bring it back, who are the people going to implement those policies? Do you know anything about them? That's where the investigation goes into the armed forces. And you have to find a system, because you have to look at, when you think of that innovations, you got that ideas, you have to think of the structures. You have to think of the capacity. Then you have to think of how you communicate all this in order to be implemented. And that comes last. But before that, you have to keep it safe. How do you keep that safe? You have to have a way to measure what you do and know the outcome. The metrics should have been simple one. The most important thing is life. People that are adversely mentioned, we all know there's nothing new that comes out from the TRRC. We had our TRRC in the diaspora here. We had it on our social media. Anything that you hear on this thing wasn't new. Might be new to you, but it's not new to people that have been following what's been happening in the country. Then if you constitute your committees right, that information will come in and information is already available that will have informed people adversely mentioned and how you handle that. Two, it's about regimentation. People that, and if you look at it, if we deal with one, you see how much we used to deal with two. Two would be people that carry these ranks and they have not earned them. Regimentation. And you have addressed that situation. Then if you address one and two, you see that three would be minimal. What is three? Corruption. People have been involved in high level corruption within the armed forces. And that's procurement. That's about people who have the responsibility to discharge welfare and other issues. And you'll be surprised then how much. And if you deal with these areas, I am not saying that you have completely achieved something, but now this final aspect would be to check into question that we check into the productivity of the people in the armed forces that would advise the capacity. That's when you send the questionnaire, and that questionnaire should be designed in a way that enough information will be captured to inform you of who is Ben Suwareh, what capacity does Ben Suwareh have. And then this information will be important when you take decisions to manage the rest of the armed forces. You might find Ben Suwareh or Aisha or Mariama or Ibrahim of high caliber or something else. But and in the questionnaire, they might even tell you, look, I only wore this uniform because that was the only thing going. And that's where, when you think about what to do, probably think of the institutions that needed to be capacitated, just like the GTTI and other universities of the Gambia, and decide that you guys, we will give you up, we will give you a package that you will retire from the army and take him to the institutions, or while serving in the army, you will be part of this unit that would be reoriented in this form to go back to civilian life to be productive. These are the people that will be part of what will be the building our workforce and ready for the economic development that we have. No, that did not happen. What happened is everybody, because the entire, I say entire general in a general term. I don't mean every one of them, but majority of them are conflicted. They have a conflict of interest. They themselves are carrying ranks they don't want to reduce, or they themselves have been compromised in situation. Because when you judge, when you get to judge the severity of the crime, some of them you judge them because of it will be based on their judgment. You cannot expect someone to carry the rank of a general, a colonel, and lieutenant colonels and others, and have a history of bad judgment. In the metric system, that would have disqualified that person to serve. But that's why you will not have this system put in place for order to work. That's the only way that we can get onto reforming this arm. But they were conflicted for different reasons, and also on they went on. Starting from Masani Kinte himself. Because of, as I said, when I came out to say he was the wrong person to be selected, and people have a problem with that. And these were my reasons, and today we have seen it. Because we needed people who are not conflicted of their judgment in the past and everything, and people who have the capacity. And I emphasize this: in order to carry out the reform, they don't have to be soldiers. In the UK, in America, when they have reforms, yes, most of them have been in the army before, because of the nature of the American system that most politicians or civil, technocrats have served in the military. But United Kingdom here, you'll be surprised. I've seen reforms, and right now reforms are going on with the armed forces of the United Kingdom. I think two of them might have ever served these forces. The rest have not. You don't have to be a soldier to understand national security. National security, soldiering is just a part of it. It entails far more. It needs understanding of international affairs. It needs understanding of economy. It needs understanding of a lot of things. Then it's not about soldiers in uniform coming around in the table and decide. That was completely wrong and it's false. That's why we are problem here. Let me come down to the problem here now. Based on this message, and I said the message, I believe it originated from the people that support Babylon Mansa, or whatever you call him. And yes, they have a reason to send it out. And if I was working for national security today, I have to comb through this message to get to certain things. And there are a lot of things that needed to be combed out. I mean, to get to about Babylon Mansa, but who would do that? One, they don't know how to do it. Two, they are compromised themselves. They don't want issues to be dig up. I mean, for people to know. The message said, breaking news. Information reaching us with great concern for alarming rate of Gambia Armed Forces military personnel's massive resignation. From Basse Barracks, a high number of soldiers were resigning. Farafenya Barracks, Kanilai Barracks, Yunum Barracks, and Fajara Barracks. If you ask, I mean, this is interesting. What these cowards did was, when they came in, if you go and ask people that know, majority of people in Basse are from state guards. They took the state guards and just battalion and send them to Farafenya and Basse, thinking that they're pushing them far away from them. That's a coward decision. It was not strategic. Now, the other barracks and so on are affected with this resignation, which is quite true. Because why are they resigning? What else is in there? What is in there? They are completely demoralized. Yes, I'm not saying that uh, they are to be celebrated, but they could have been reformed, and by now they could be celebrated because they would, when they were, if they had been reformed, even during the COVID, they would have played active roles. That government would see the need for a force, a disciplinary force, call it an army, an armed forces, or whatever, that was needed in the time of emergency, and that they would have been celebrated. But what we have now is we cannot, because part of the reforms, what you would have done is to constitute an institution fit in the democracy that too, would have the right mindset in operating to win over the confidence of the civil population, of the perspective they have of them in the past. This is something important. Did they have they draft anything towards? Go and ask people that read the so-called reform strategy, reform nonsense. Have you seen anything being implemented? No. In fact, the economic presence with the mission creep now, they feel useless. They sit in bed, doing nothing. They have a poor, especially when the further you go out of Banjul area towards Farafenni, towards Basse, they have poor records of training or anything to motivate them. We know what that says. You can't just have all these people trained up and don't have a curriculum. They don't have a activity. To keep them engaged. They become bored, and obviously, it's not the money. The only thing helping them is the rotation in the going to peacekeeping. That's the only thing out there. Apart from that, nothing. They cannot even be part of themselves wearing a uniform. Because you wearing a uniform, there's your counterpart from the economy brought there to check on you. That's what it says. It was meant to be a temporal measure. It's serving as a permanent measure now. Continue here. It says from the text, if you ask why the massive resignation, the answer is lack of motivation and low morals. Fact. Some will also say they regret changing Babylon Mansa. That's a lie. People would that say that we know that. That's where the propaganda is. That's a blue lie. Whoever empathizes with Babylon Mansa is evil as Babylon Mansa and is part of our problem. That's a lie. We should not let that to go on. Changing of Babylon Mansa to the estate agent as the president. Source also close to the army, high command says if the trend continue by June 2021, Why June 2021? You see, this is where intelligence should comb the message. Why June 2021? Is it deliberate? What's the baseline of June 2021? We should be careful. By June 2021, the ranks of sergeant will be on duty. What are they saying? They're saying the ranks of sergeant will be on duty that because of the retrenchment. But look, think of something else that is not written in there or is unthinkable. You have to think in the unthinkable in order to get to answers. That rank of sergeant will be serving as guards. Yeah, that's possible for many reasons. Because again, another failure of these reforms is you cannot have I mean TOR what do you call it um the will get to me anyway. You cannot have that without a realistic appraisal assessment of the security of the economic conditions of this country and in the foreseeable future. And the Gambia Armed Forces terms and conditions. You cannot have a terms and conditions based on this is what Nigeria does. This is what that country does. Terms and conditions should reflect on what you want out. It's like a TOR. It's what you want out from these units and what is possible to maintain it and in order and in fact again to serve as an incentive and for them to carry out their duties. But everything they do is distortion, is generic. They pick something from somewhere else, put it in a draft, and finalize the draft as their institutional policy. That's why we have problem we have. They continue. I said, sources close to the Army High Command says if the trend continues to by June 2021, the rank of sergeant will be duty. Many are on the verge of resigning. Food is a problem. Soldiers are feeding themselves. This past month, security officers did not get their pay on time. I'll get to that. They said food is a problem. You see, that's why if the security sector reforms were done right, you see, when you do go onto the metrics and again answer the question of what do you need or what do you want, that will have answered the issue with capacity, the issue with the capacity in the sense of tools and equipments and the resources that needed in order to maintain them. And you would have find the resources that would make it possible for it to be sustainable. And I'll tell you, if they had think a little, the Gambia Marine, Gambian Navy, or Marine you call them, could have been the avenue that could have been utilized. In fact, to generate revenue that would help the armed forces to be sustainable and to be effective in discharging their orders. But do they think it's not about being in uniform to reform an armed forces? It's an element of economics. It's an economic element of science. It's an element of accounting. These are things that are needed in order to do that right. And then a big element of intelligence. I mean, in order to carry it out, but not men and women just given ranks to do this. They continue. The message continue, and that they feeding themselves. Yes. What the problem is because, um, you see, when if the security sector reform was done right, you see, many soldiers, young soldiers are married. Many soldiers married to wives. Don't tell me that that's their problem. You see, when you look at this thing critically, it might sound as you are looking after the soldiers. No, you are addressing a national security concern. Now you have to look at then how do we deal with the situation? Because the cost of this failing is bigger than the resources to be used in order to regulate this or to fix this problem and to be lasting that is sustainable. Most of these people are married and they yes, most of them come from rural communities, but they already settled in the urban area around this area. Now their wives and children and everything settled within these areas. Now, if you uproot them as individuals and send them to Basen, they can't function. They still have to commute. Because they have the needs to be with their family. You see, that's why we would have realized we haven't got the infrastructure for this much soldiers. Do you understand what the idea may get away with? Because he had a mechanism to control that. We live in a democracy. We should have realized that. But this failings. That's why we have problem with Sweden and others and the corruption. The corruption. Because the corruption now, because they see the corruption from Baroque going down, and nothing is done. Nobody pays for being corrupt. Now people are doing it as they want. Yes, corruption was in the Yahya government, and he was the most corrupt person. But when the corruption happens and he sees that it's going to affect him, Yahya does something about it. But Barrow does not even. He's so lazy. He doesn't comprehend what's affecting him, personal interest, even national interest or anything. The man just feed himself, surround himself with psychophants, telling him that he's the greatest for ever Gambian, whatever it is, and all those things get to his head, and he sleeps all day. That's what he does. The guy is not fit to be in charge of an alcalde rather than a country that comes from out of a dictatorship. We have to do something and bring about the change. This is the problem we have. That's why corruption is just spiraling. They continue, the message continued. This past month, security officers did not get their pay on time. I will get to that later. Financial constraints, I'll get to that. I've been agitating that and people are silent. I'll get to that. When security officers did not get their pay on time, where are the officers who were dancing? Is in 3 days yesterday and nonsense. That's why I said it's from the Babili so-called psychophants. I mean, they should be ashamed of themselves to associate with. But I mean, if they cannot see it, they are just the same. Our country is financial constraints in the country. The country is grinding to a halt. The Gambia is grinding to a halt. I wrote a post this morning before even learning about this text or about what happened in Gujo. I wrote a post because all these days I've been following and I've been talking about it. I wrote a post. I said, it's on my timeline. Go and look at it. Yesterday, okay, let's start. Yesterday, I wrote a post. The finance minister, Mamburinjai, the GRA and the Yankuba Dabo, they went to the central bank, according to my reports. Very reliable. They went to the central bank to meet the central bank governor and the officers to discuss measures that can be taken in order to liquefy the government mechanism. They run out of cash. The government is grinding to a halt because they run out of cash. Money is not flowing. You see, this is what we've been telling them. Development is not about building road and bridges. And when they went borrowing in the domestic market to build them and to build these roads and bridges, now there's not enough cash to go around because they've been put into projects that are not uh, impacting into the lives of the people now. In the future, if the economists manage, they would. But they took the availability funds within the sectors and been investing in that. Now they have not come to conclusion yesterday. They are looking at treasury bills, raising the interest rate for treasury bills to entice people to buy more treasury bills, borrowing more in order to have money to put into the system. Businesses are grinding to a halt because there was no incentive when we have the COVID to keep these things. I spoke about the microeconomic policies that should have come in order to keep the wheels turning. If you don't, lubricate the wheels, they will kind of halt, and they will cease. And that's where we are now. They did that yesterday. Today, I keep on thinking about this. There is no political party on that in the Gambia that is coming out, their financial spokesperson, I don't know of any, to come and tell us what is going on, to diagnose the problems and tell us the problems and the solutions to these problems. We are having overload of information on these things. And I know they are having the same because we all know each other is a small Gambia. What are they afraid of? Now, it's granted to her. The evidences are there. Recently, we saw the Gambia government wrote an article come out to say Gambia government invite World Bank to fight corruption. That was a lie because the measures been put in by the World Bank and IMF, they cannot go up and go, and now the budget support they're expecting, they are not coming and so on. Now they want to entice these people. Okay, we'll open up, we'll fight corruption or nonsense. How can they fight corruption when the big most corrupt person um and a most corrupt person is Adam Barrow and his finance minister, on records, not speculation. That was an evidence. These people decided again to take the money they have to pay and the guy construction, had him guy of Banyan Road and this project. Why? Because of when they pay Hadim is paying them back. The kickbacks are coming. They're looking after themselves rather than saying to Hadim, look, we are in budget constraints. We have to find a way to solve this project or do something whilst we take care of this. No, there are no medicines in our pharmacies, in our hospitals. There's no equipment, just services been paid for our hospitals and everything. Go and find out yourself. Where is the opposition? Where is the press going out to talk about these issues happening in our healthcare? No, that's where the problems we have. Now, the problem with this is the finances is growing trouble. We had about many people saying that they have not received their pays on time, or there's a constant here or there. They're trying to get their payments been made by government. It's not happening. And now the army, some of people in the army are saying they will not pay on time. But the officers responsible, the Minister of Finance and his people, the presidents of the others, they're spending as there's no tomorrow. But again, just I said in the AG, that music from over, the Gambian elites should be very careful. Gambian elites should be very careful if we have anything called elites. The Gambian elites have always been our problem. Yes, we would turn and say the youths are problem. It's a lie. The Gambian elites, the same people that bankrupted the Jawara government to ensure disgruntledness and everything else somewhere, and we got what we had. And the same people that came and empowered Yajame, and the same people now doing it for Alabama, the elites. And they should be very careful. Why I am saying, I keep on saying this. We have seen what happened in Senegal. The youths are learning from what they see on social media. They see what happened in France with the yellow vest demonstration and other countries, what happens there. And in Senegal, we have seen that be done. We have seen some youths, and criminals jump on and took on some of the people that perceive of enabling Macky Sall. And our elites think that this is not going to happen to them. They are not even seeing the signs written on the wall. If a police immigration post would be attacked, if the incident that happened in Sanyang is not telling them anything. And the sad part of our Gambia is that we all know where everybody lives. We all know who is who and what they own. It's a small country. We should be smarter than this. But they don't care. These financial malpractices, the corruption is the cancer of that country. And producing the failed leadership we have and ensuring the problems we inquire now. But Gambia is in their straits. Gambia should be on with arms now. Gambians should be in arms now to try and find the solution. And going to election for election's sake is not the solution. And we have to think critically whether the problems we have now can be solved through elections alone. I think Gambians should be thinking of a critical time of calling a national emergency now. And well-meaning Gambian, conscious Gambian to come on board and to see, try to find the solutions. not only to remove Adam Barrow from office, but to make sure we have an administration. I am calling it an administration that would address these burning issues to stabilize the country. The country is not stable. And in order for democracy to thrive, and political parties would be empowered, and in order to able to the challenges, and civil society would be in the right path to in order to complement the efforts to bring about change. But that's a discussion for another day. Political class have to do more. I keep on saying this. We should not rest on every political party about their leaders. I mean leaders about the party secretary general or the party flag bearer. That is what is happening in the Gambia. We are hearing every political party having their structure. We are hearing every political party claiming to have capacity, but the evidence is not out there. Political party leaders cannot speak on security, speak on finance, speak on governance, speak on agriculture, speaks on corruption, speaks on youth problems, speaks on women, speaks on sexual violence and every other thing. In order to effectively operate, all political parties need to show us a structure and the capacity to be proven, to be out there and to engage the Gambian people, to win their confidence by talking about these burning issues that we need to address and should explaining the solutions, demonstrating the solutions to this problem. But mobilizing alone, yes, might lead to a political party or few political parties coming into government. But that's not the lasting solution. That does not mean that we are out of the woods or we are going to solve our problems. Our problems are greater than a single political party. Our problems are deepening because we come out from dictatorship and we went into the one most useless administration and in fact jeopardized the security of the country far more than it has ever been. This is the situation we have now, and I hope people will appreciate and understand where this message is coming from and the urgency of this message, and to know that this is beyond politics. This is the reflection of the realities on the ground. People are refusing to see it, and I keep on saying that yes, people in the diaspora are seeing it far more than the people on the ground. And people, sincere people, will tell us all the time. And you know this happened. I saw it on social media. We cannot reduce the importance of social media, but we again have to be responsible to take social media very responsibly. That's why I have to emphasize before leaving this platform that the incident we reported, that there are some foreigners or allegedly foreigners involved in this, should not make any Gambian to take this personally, to take the laws into their hand. Should not to make any Gambian to target any sector of our society because of their origin or their identity. We are appealing, and my message here, and while I'm having this discussion, is for conscious Gambians to come on and take up the position of leadership and advocate for the right things to happen. Wherever you belong, or wherever you are, being in the political sphere, or in civil society, or call yourself private or whatever, there's something that you can do and needed to be done now. I am appealing on this so that Gambians would understand the dynamics and not take the laws onto their hand, but be proactive in holding accountability onto the people they elected, people they selected, their alcalos, their imamos, their MPs. Gunjur MP have to be held accountable. What is happening in Gunjur? Where does it stand with this? Where does it stand with the presence of female factors? And go on and go on and go on. Sanyang. And I have to emphasize this. Do we know that they are arresting the youth of Sanyang still? Without, their investigation is not yielding any evidence. Yes, the police have a reason to arrest when they suspect. You have a power spare the pays the act to support that, but that does not supposed not to be abused. I think the problem that happened in silence should be tackled in a different way, but not to try to victimize individuals thinking that it's going to solve the problem. The problem in Sanyang is the same problems in the entire country of the Gambia, and it's deeper. We need leadership, and we still have not seen that leadership on the ground. The Minister of Interior have not come out to address the problems of security in that country. The um, Minister of Local Government have not come on to address the problems of administration, local administration in that country, community relationships and other things. The Minister of Youth have not come out to address the situation of our youth and the problems they're going through in that country rather than concentrating on football, as football is only the agenda for youth. The Minister for Women Affairs did not come out to address the violence meted on women, the abuse of women to their life and livelihoods. We have seen what happened in Gunjur with their gardens and other things. But the same people, the vice president, who's a gender activist and vice president, and actually been accused of even taking part in the environmental destruction, as she has a company that is involved in some of the activities in the Congo South, which is restricting the enforcement agencies to do their job. Why are we not talking about this? These are the things and accountability we should ensure. And as I said, I am in love with this old boy audio, and I would just have to play it before leaving here, and have to share this audio again from Oboy and come off this program. And Juma Mubarak, and we here. Thank you.